Part 65. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 642. A huge fleet sailed on the Sargasso Sea, with 21 cargo ships followed by 2 supply ships, specifically supplying coal and fresh water to the cargo ships. When any pirate discovers a cargo fleet, they will rush to the fleet immediately. They always cannot see the escort ship because there are too many cargo ships. The fleet of 21 cargo ships is as tender, juicy and fragile as a peeled lychee. However, when they rush closer, they will find a ship slowly emerging from the fleet. It is the escort ship of this fleet. The pirates became even more excited after seeing that there was only one escort ship. Is there such a good thing? It's too much of a big deal. How could there be such a weak-minded chamber of commerce? When the pirates rushed closer, they all turned around because the escort ship was flying the volcano flag, which was the flag of the great pirate furnace. No wonder, it turned out to be an old-timer. The pirates ran for their lives one after another, and ran away without even saying hello. This can explain clearly, it is not that the fleet is too large, but that the escort ship is too powerful. No pirate dares to approach the fleet escorted by the former great pirate furnace. Rudolph would always sigh on the ship, today's pirates are really inferior to each other. They are far worse than we were back then. At this time, the ship's Dr. Drake, the former great pirate and poor sailor, would shake his head. Your fleet has never robbed a merchant ship. We thought you were noble, but later we found out that you preferred to rob evil cults and wizards. Yes, who dares to be such a pirate on the Sargasso Sea? When the Constitutional Army Navy saw the Furnace's fleet, they kept a tacit understanding and watched the Furnace's fleet leave. At first, the Royal Navy's East Fleet sent ships to follow, and later the West Fleet sent ships to follow. When the nobles formed an alliance with the Furnace, they did not realize the threat of the Furnace. When the nobles wanted the Furnace, they could understand what a headache the evil cult was. This is a hedgehog that spits poisonous gas. It is difficult to fight, but it cannot be killed, and it is unwilling to be let go. It was not until they left the control of the Royal Navy in Coderport that the Marquis of Golden Anchor sent a ship with a message to Rudolph. The Marquis of Golden Anchor did not send his eldest son Caleb, but instead sent Chief of Staff Alberto. The relationship between Forge and Caleb was not very good, and he was afraid that the emotional problems between the two would spoil the matter. There is too much pressure from the royal family. I hope Mr. Furnace can keep a low profile. When Rudolph heard what Alberto, the chief of staff of the Western Fleet of the Royal Fleet, said, he had no choice but to return. I will not cross the Sargasso Sea again within a month. Thanks for understanding. After the huge fleet entered Oyster Bay port, the entire port boiled. A total of 21 merchant ships. What size fleet is this? The port vacated half of the plank road just to receive this time's cargo. The cargo on the Titan and Pisces 1 and 2 belonged to the Volcano Shipping Company, and Mackenzie would contact merchants to sell the cargo. Rudolph ignored these specific matters and went to the Black Gold Institute. As soon as he entered the VIP conference room of the Black Gold Institute, Rudolph met the smuggler Snag, who was already waiting here. Snag was waiting at the door and grabbed Forge's hand as soon as Forge came in, holding it excitedly. As a Scorpio wizard, Rudolph was very unaccustomed to this. Anyone who cooperates with him will be instinctively afraid of being poisoned by him, and no one wants to have physical contact with him. Snag was so excited that he dared to shake hands with the Scorpio wizard. Celine and Meriwether were both shocked by Snag's bold behavior. Meriwether did not dare to shake hands with the Furnace, or even drink water in front of the Furnace. It was not because he was afraid of the Furnace being poisoned, but because he instinctively reacted when he saw a poisonous snake. Of fear. Celine wasn't afraid. She and the Furnace exchanged a lot of bodily fluids. She just thought Mr. Snag's excitement was too cheap. Mr. Furnace, please accept your relic. This is a level 6 druid relic. After sitting down, Rudolph saw a wooden box. When he opened the wooden box, there was a piece of green cactus placed on the satin. Snag explained the furnace in a high tone. This relic comes from the Pira Desert, where a tribe of druids lived. Level 6 druids master natural disasters and droughts, which can create large areas of drought without rain. In droughts, other apostles will quickly lose water and their bodies will turn into mummies, which is very scary. This is a relic naturally left behind after the death of the leader of the previous druid tribe. We obtained this relic legally and compliantly, so you don't have to have any psychological burden. Oh, you're overthinking it? Even if you assassinate that druid, I won't have any psychological burden. When other apostles asked wizards to make witchcraft weapons, they would emphasize that the relics were donated by the apostles after their natural death, so as to avoid falling into an unfavorable moral situation after obtaining the witchcraft weapons, otherwise they would be different from the wizards they hated. Snag smiled awkwardly. He was so excited that he didn't notice this and just introduced the relics as usual. Rudolph suddenly felt that to obtain the relic, you didn't have to fight and kill. It was easier to obtain the relic by exchanging resources. If Rudolph hunted for this relic by himself, he would have to become the enemy of an entire druid tribe. He had to plan it's too troublesome to infiltrate, assassinate, etc. Now Snag handed over the relic, saving Rudolph a lot of energy. Rudolph can also say this now, the relic is not about fighting and killing, the relic is about human nature. Furnace reached out and picked up the relic. Snag didn't see what trick Furnace used, and the relic disappeared in Furnace's hand. Snag was not surprised by this. As the most active wizard on the Saragosi, Furnace certainly had many extraordinary means. In addition to this relic, the shipping fee of 300,000 gold shields will be paid to you as soon as possible. I want cash. Please rest assured, it is definitely cash. I want. Rudolph hesitated. The gold shields of the Elba Alchemy Council and the royal family were depreciating. They abused currency to stimulate the economy. The gold shield of the Carolingian kingdom will also depreciate in the future, because I heard in the United States of Cantal that Carolingian also has a very high risk of civil war. Is the gold shield of the Meguen Empire safe? If the royal knights of the Meguen Empire go south, then their gold shields will also depreciate. Abuse of currency is the most efficient way to rob, nothing else. Forget it, I want the gold shields of the Meguen Empire and the Cantal United States, half each. The gold shields of these two countries are more valuable. The gold shields of the Meguen Empire and the Cantal United States are both precious foreign exchange, but the ability of the furnace is too strong, it is worth using the Parliament's reserve foreign exchange, and Snag has a channel to get foreign exchange. Rudolph was very happy. So far, the 3 relics needed for the secret ceremony of the Midheaven Sextons have been gathered. Rudolph now needs to go to the secret location of the Canary Islands to accommodate the characteristics of the Sextons. The Sextons is a fire sign. With the ability of the fire sign, Rudolph can create a fire source at any time, and no longer be afraid of the embarrassment of not being able to revive without a fire source. Rudolph said, in the future, it is best to use relics as bargaining chips for your transactions with me. Next time, come to me in advance, and I will provide a list of relics. You can see which relic you can get legally and legally. Understood, Mr. Furnace, happy cooperation. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 643. Major General Alberto, as you can see, I only brought one of my ships to pass through the sea area you patrolled, and I did not smuggle any goods. This was somewhat embarrassing, because he had just promised Chief of Staff Major General Alberto that he would not cross the Saragosi, and he broke his promise so soon. The location of the secret ceremony of the Midheaven Sextons is the Canary Islands, which is located in the United States of Cantal and consists of several islands far away from the coastline. To reach the Canary Islands, you must cross the Saragosi again. At this time, When they met the Royal Navy ship, Rudolph took the initiative to go on board to explain. "I am not here to smuggle this time. I really have to pass through the Sarago Sea for some personal reasons." Major General Alberto certainly believed what the furnace said, because the furnace only brought one volcano, not a large fleet. He hesitated and said, "You can actually not say hello. If I don't know, it will save a lot of trouble. It's abrupt, indeed. If I don't say it, no one will know." Looking at the volcano leaving, Rear Admiral Alberto sighed. The furnace is still the free furnace, going wherever he wants. The tension on the continent has little impact on him, unlike the Royal Navy, which is about to launch a general offensive. They will all be caught in a war sweeping across the northern continent. When the volcano passed through the waters controlled by the Royal Navy's Eastern Fleet, Rudolph learned his lesson and sailed secretly, avoiding any ship he encountered. The Royal Navy's Eastern Fleet didn't want to see the furnace either, that's for sure. After leaving the Sarago Sea, the ship entered the winter ocean, where the sea water was extremely cold, much lower than the water temperature of the Sarago Sea. In winter, large areas of frozen sea surface will appear at the north and south ends of the winter ocean. Among them, the sea surface with floating glaciers in the southern hemisphere was once the territory of the Antarctic wizards of the Wizard Association. The Canary Islands on the nautical chart appeared at the end of the field of vision. These islands are more than 200 nautical miles away from the coastline. They are isolated archipelagos overseas and not far from the equator, so they are within the direct range of the Mid-Sky constellation. The Canary Islands are also a tourist destination in the United States of Cantal. There are blue waters far away from disputes and troubles, soft beaches, beach beauties wearing very little, and rows of coconut trees. This trip is also an employee welfare trip of Volcano Shipping Company. All consumption here will be paid by the company, and employees can take a half-month vacation here. After landing, Rudolph lay on the beach chair for 3 days without anyone disturbing him. The court here did not disturb him, and there were not so many forces scheming here. It would be great if all places were like this isolated archipelago overseas. Drinking coconut juice every day, walking on the beach, occasionally swimming in the sea, and discussing with Ivan at night whether he was not working hard enough, causing Ivan to be so pink and tender. After 3 days of relaxation, Rudolph came to the beach late at night. He looked up at the star field of Sextans, a small, dim constellation with few bright stars. The sextant is an optical instrument used to measure the altitude angle of the sun or stars, and is also used by wizards or alchemical astronomers to measure the distance and altitude of stars. He took out a starstone, crushed it into powder, and floated in front of Rudolph. Soon, the starstone powder changed into a sextant hexagram. Secret formula of midheaven sextants. Astrological map sextant hexagram. Main relic level 6 druid relic or level 6 fire wizard relic. Secondary relic level 6 alchemist relic, level 6 white magic priest relic. Ritual location the direct area of Sextans, Canary Islands. Put the main relic, level 6 druid relic, the emerald druid cactus, in the circle in the middle of the astrological hexagram. Put the 2 secondary relics in the left and right circles. One is a level 6 thermocompression membrane, a relic from the Vichy County Speaker Obed, and the other is a level 6 white demon priest relic, a light bead. After making preparations, Rudolph began to complete the sextant seal. After the starstone powder came into contact with the 3 relics, the apostle power in the relics overflowed, and the 3 apostle powers produced a wonderful reaction, reaching the conditions for the sextant seal star power to land. Rudolph looked up and saw the sextant seal flickering in the starry sky. His star power left his body and entered the sextant hexagram. In response to the star power, the sextant seal in the starry sky suddenly dropped a huge star power. A warm feeling began to spread from the top of Rudolph's head to his feet. This was the sextant seal star power entering Rudolph's body. The sextant seal's star power did not stop. After passing through Rudolph's body, it then entered the astrological hexagram under his feet. The main relic, the level 6 druid cactus, was the first to respond. The relic suddenly disintegrated, and all the apostle power contained in it spread around. Rudolph was like being in the middle of a hot desert. The temperature of over 50 degrees Celsius made Rudolph feel hot all over. The temperature continued to rise. The 2 coconut trees closest to Rudolph not only dehydrated quickly, but also emitted green smoke and soon burned. Rudolph tried his best to restrain the apostle power in this relic and not let the high-temperature environment expand far away, otherwise the island would become a desert in a short time, and the tourists here would become mummies. The attack power of the druids was not very strong, but their attack range was abnormally large. Whether it was a natural disaster such as a hurricane, drought, or earthquake, it could change the climate or terrain conditions in a certain area in a short time. The first secondary relic, the light bead of the white demon priest, reacted second. A beam of light appeared on the white magic light bead, and the beam was like a searchlight beam, shooting straight to the top of the head, shooting towards the direction of the sextant. The second secondary relic, Obed's level 6 thermobaric membrane, began to work. Obed could create explosions in front of his palm out of thin air, used for attack and defense, and the explosion was amazing. The level 6 thermobaric membrane suddenly flew towards the beam, accelerated suddenly in the beam, and flew into the starry sky with the beam. Rudolph looked up at the beam and found that the speed of the level 6 thermobaric membrane was very fast and could not be captured by the naked eye. At this time, the star power of the sextant began to work. As an optical instrument for measuring ultra-long distances, the sextant quickly gave Rudolph a vague perception of the distance of the level 6 thermobaric membrane. The height of the level 6 thermobaric membrane continued to rise until it reached the top of the sky. From Rudolph's point of view, if the level 6 thermobaric membrane rose further, it would leave the atmosphere. The sextant's star power was poured into the 6th level thermobaric membrane in the sky, and then passed through the 6th level thermobaric membrane into Rudolph's body. In the natural disaster drought around Rudolph, flames suddenly ignited. These flames drilled out from the cracks in the sand and created a sea of fire with a diameter of dozens of meters around Rudolph. At the same time, the 6th level thermobaric membrane in the sky also began to burn, bursting in the sky, creating a fireball in the air, like a meteorite in the starry sky. In the flames at the feet, the star-stone powder full of the power of the apostles and the star power of the sextons gathered towards Rudolph. The star power of the sextons became a part of Rudolph's star power without any hindrance. Whether it was the star power in the sky or the star power under the feet, they were poured into Rudolph's body, allowing Rudolph to successfully accommodate the characteristics of the sextons. Rudolph pointed to the sea and used the star power of the sextons. A spark of Mars appeared hundreds of meters in the sky. It expanded rapidly and grew rapidly, and finally turned into a terrifying meteor, dragging a long tail flame and smashing into the distant sea. Rudolph accommodated the second midheaven constellation and became the midheaven sexton's wizard. The meteorite that smashed into the sea stirred up a huge white water column, and a rumble came from the sea. The whole island was awakened, and noisy and chaotic sounds came from afar. Tourists walked out of the room one after another, stood on the balcony facing the sea, and looked at the meteorite on the sea. How could a meteorite fall? Will there be an earthquake or a tsunami? In order to make up for the tourists' disturbed dreams, Rudolph waved his hand again, and several meteors streaked across the sky. Under the control of the sexton's star power, the dust in the sky suddenly ignited a flame, and the flame became more and more vigorous and brighter, and finally turned into a shining meteor. 1, 2, 3, there were more and more meteors, more and more dense, and finally turned into a beautiful meteor shower. The meteor shower is located in the star field of sextons, so let's name this meteor shower Sexton's meteor shower. Tourists raised their hands and pointed at the starry sky. Look! Meteor shower. Rudolph looked up at the meteor shower in the sky like all tourists. It was beautiful, very beautiful. He deliberately adjusted the rhythm of the star power to make the meteor shower large and small, colorful, and scattered. I hope tourists like it. This is a romantic firework for them. From now on, there is no need to worry about the lack of fire on the ground. He can create a long burning sextant flame in the sky before the battle, and revive in the air, focusing on an unpredictable one. The lovers snuggled together. Just when Rudolph felt that he had created a romantic meteor shower and made an outstanding contribution to the fertility rate of the United States of Cantal, he suddenly saw a fire at the far end of the island. No. I set this fire. No matter who set the fire, it was now set by Rudolph. As a notorious wizard, Rudolph has this awareness. No matter where he goes, no matter whether the disaster is caused by him or not, he is the first person to be suspected. After sighing, Rudolph had to fly to the fire. It would be bad if he was really blamed. He had just compromised with the Cantal Council. Don't mess it up again. After he came to the other end of the island, he saw the burning area, which was the slums on the island. The indigenous people, waiters, and others on the island all live in this slum. Between the slums and the resort, there is an abandoned strip square. One end of this strip square is connected to the beach and the other end is connected to the low mountain on the island. Judging from the planning of this strip square, the owner of the square must have planned a lot of buildings on the opposite side of the square, but the opposite side of the square is all low wooden sheds. Obviously, his plan has not been implemented. Now this square has become a natural fire break, and the flames of the wooden sheds in the slums cannot burn to the resort. At the same time, many firefighters stood on the road leading to the abandoned strip square from the resort. There is a fire pool under the road, and several huge fire water tanks beside the road. Even if the flames come over, these firefighters will put out the initial fire. Rudolph suddenly appeared beside the fire patrol captain. Why don't you put out the fire? What are you waiting for? The captain looked at the man who suddenly appeared in confusion. Out of caution, he explained, we are the fire brigade on the east side of the square. Our duty is to ensure that there will be no fire on the east side of the square. What about the fire brigade on the west side of the square? The west side of the square is full of poor people. They can't afford fire insurance and can't pay fire fees, so there is no fire brigade there. Rudolph was stunned for a moment, then remembered that the privatization of the United States of Cantal was very thorough. The fire brigade was privately owned and pursued profits. If the money was not paid, there would be no fire patrol to put out the fire, which was different from Lehman. The resorts were all wealthy seaside hotels, so of course they could afford the fire insurance and fire fees, and could afford to support the fire brigade. Those slums were different. Rudolph remained silent. He knew that the fire brigade would not go to the slums dozens of meters away to put out the fire. This was not the case when he was a patrolman in Lehman. The fire brigade in Lehman was funded by the parliament. If it was such a fire brigade, it would not stand by and watch people die. He walked forward, ready to use the water phase witchcraft, and heard the firefighters talking beside him, which made him feel very uncomfortable. Do you think those poor guys will say tomorrow that the owner of the abandoned square set the fire? Of course, when they are in disaster, conspiracy theories are the best way to comfort them. These poor guys, no one set the fire on purpose, it's because they are poor, and their poor infrastructure will inevitably burn in a fire, either this time or the next time. Yeah, the big bosses don't need to do such a shady trick that may leave evidence, just wait. I think the owners of several resort hotels must be very happy, finally they can buy this land. Rudolph shook his head. If someone set the fire, it would be very sad. If no one set the fire, it would be even more sad, proving that although the people in the slums and the resort hotel are on the same island, they are completely two different worlds. Rudolph flew into the sky, and the captain of the fire brigade frowned. What kind of apostle is this man? Hundreds of seawater rose from the sea surface. Belat could create a tsunami that swept the entire island. It was not difficult for Rudolph to flood the streets in this area with seawater. Hundreds of seawater, each standing up like a snake, rushed to the slums. Each of these water snakes made of seawater was 2 meters wide, just enough to get into the gaps between the wooden sheds, creating a fire break between the wooden sheds for cooling and extinguishing fires. After the seawater entered, thick smoke and water mist quickly rose from the entire slum, and the flames were extinguished in a very short time. After the fire was extinguished, the police station and the judicial office of the resort city finally reacted. They were responsible for the resort city and rushed to the abandoned square. Rudolph landed on the abandoned square, and the floor tiles had been weathered and broken without maintenance. The captain of the fire brigade was very smart. He immediately asked his team members to put out the fire to earn a good reputation. When the fire chief passed by Rudolph, he looked back at the witch hunter and police officer who appeared at the end of the road and said, "I don't know who you are, but you should be prepared to pay compensation. The salt content of seawater is too high and corrosive. It will corrode the pavement and furniture paint of the slums. They will claim compensation from you. Do you think the people from the judiciary can provide you with protection?" A starlight water snake bit the fire chief's neck. Rudolph will not kill him, but at least he will be poisoned for a week and make him feel painful. 2 in 1, one more chapter. Book friend 12 Fingers Reincarnation. Keep reading and commenting, and add more chapters for him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 644. Director. He poisoned me. The director of the judicial office trotted closer, with cold sweat on his head. Seeing the miserable state of the fire chief on the ground, the director cursed in his mind, "Why didn't the furnace poison you? Why are you calling me? Do you think I died quickly enough?" Judging from the flag hung by the volcano, the tribunal already knew that the furnace had come to their islands, and the tribunal here did not want to deal with such a dangerous wizard. While sending a ship to notify the court of justice on land, he also acted like a turtle and did not want to offend the islands and smugglers on the volcano. When meteorites and meteor showers appeared tonight, the judgment office knew that the furnace was completing the constellation secret tonight. The Canary Islands are not big, and their history has recorded many promotions of Zhongtian wizards. If wizards do not want to be promoted on the nearby sea, they will choose this island. There was even the birth of a small island when the wizard created a huge meteorite after his promotion. The meteorite hit the seabed and caused an earthquake, and a small island was squeezed out of the seabed. A certain destruction of the judgment office was also related to the wizard. The sextant wizard was a fire wizard with a bad temper and irritable temper. After being promoted, he excitedly started a fight with the judgment office. The result was tragic. After the one-sided beating, the wizard ran away feeling satisfied. This place is far away from the mainland, and the Alchemy Council has no time to react. After discovering the anomaly in the starry sky today, everyone in the judgment office was in panic. They took out the historical materials and kept searching for the corresponding ones. They were sure that the furnace was completing the secret formula of the Zhongtian wizard. They just hoped that this night would be as fast and quiet as possible. Spent. Later, a fire broke out in the slums, and the judicial office could no longer hold on. The furnace really destroyed the island, and they couldn't escape it. The director of the tribunal took courage and asked cautiously, "Are you Mr. Furnace?" "It's me. There's a fire here. Come put it out." "Thank you so much, you are such a kind wizard." The fire chief shouted on the ground again, "Director. This wizard poisoned me. Please burn him to death. Burn him to death tonight? I suspect he also set this fire. In this, give him the most severe punishment in the fire. The director smiled awkwardly. Mr. Furnace, please don't mind this idiot. This island is somewhat closed, and this idiot doesn't know what's going on outside. The fire chief finally realized the problem. The situation was different from what he imagined. Rudolph said, the fire chief said, I will suffer compensation from the victims because I used seawater to put out the fire. Please rest assured that our court will not accept such a case. This idiot is just talking nonsense. I don't want to compensate, but the losses suffered by these people are real. If I don't compensate, someone has to compensate. How about you contribute some money to compensate these victims? How much do you think? The director of the judicial department had a headache. He looked at the slums shrouded in gunpowder smoke and water mist, and said, I will try to apply to the parliament to see if I can compensate each household with 700 copper shields. 700 copper shields? This is a huge amount of money. Yes, that's it. The director of the tribunal breathed a sigh of relief. It would be best to resolve tonight's matter simply like this. Rudolph said again, did you see the meteor shower just now? I saw it. I saw it. They say that druids are natural disasters. I think your ability, Mr. Furnace, is the magic that can change nature. That meteor shower was so beautiful. Isn't it beautiful? As long as it's beautiful, it's free. Charge, the director of the judicial office was stunned. Meteor shower still charges. They didn't order this show either. The furnace itself wanted to show the meteor shower. Go back to a portion and tell your mayor that this meteor shower is worth 1,000 gold shields. In the next 2 days, there will be a sextant meteor shower every day, a total of 3,000 gold shields. I originally wanted to collect 6,000 gold shields, but I can borrow your beach to complete it. For the sake of confidentiality, I'll give you a 50% discount. What? Isn't this a forced sale? The director is confused. He has no idea what the furnace is going to do and wants to extort money. Why not just blackmail? What a lame excuse. 3,000 gold shields should be distributed to the people in the fire as compensation after I set the fire. After all, I set the fire. This money must be paid in full, otherwise I will smash your court and tell your speaker. And the deputy speaker, let them inquire, I am particularly good at destroying the parliament in one go. The director of the judicial department was about to cry but had no tears left. He quickly defended. Mr. Furnace. You definitely did not start this fire. The owners of several resort hotels did something wrong last year and banned slums from upgrading circuit systems on the grounds of illegal operations and illegal power theft. In slums, the wiring is aging, and it is only a matter of time before a fire breaks out. This has absolutely nothing to do with you. They have even signed the share certificate and are preparing to build 2 large resort hotels on the other side of the strip. Huh? Are you questioning me? Can I not know if I set the fire? Rudolph kicked the fire chief on the ground. With his testimony, he can accuse me. I was the one who set the fire. Even if I didn't set the fire now, you will say I did it after I leave. The fire captain was kicked, and the toxin was strong. He lay on the ground in a daze. He didn't understand why the 2 people above him were emphasizing that it was the wizard who set the fire, and the witch hunter was proving that it was definitely not the wizard who set the fire, right? Reverse. The director of the judicial department hates the fire chief. No wonder the furnace doesn't poison you. You are finished. If you wear the same pants as the furnace, the owners of those resort hotels will skin you. Rudolph patted the director of the tribunal on the shoulder. My crew and I will leave for another week to apportion the compensation. The resort hotel owners have a lot of money. Come and check before I leave. If the compensation is not paid out for me, I'll kill you, as well as your speaker and deputy speaker. I know, I'll go share the distribution tonight. The next night, there was indeed another meteor shower in the sky. The owners of the resort hotels gathered together and looked up at the bright meteor shower with despair. What the director of the judgment department said was true. The melting pot really made an incredible suggestion. Require. How could there be such a wizard? Isn't this simply a disease? In the resort hotel, couples cuddled up against each other under the meteor shower, thinking this was the most romantic beach and night. Outside the slums, Aborigines and poor people lived in tents on a strip square, and cries came from the tents. However, in the middle of the night, the parliament suddenly sent condolences personnel to distribute subsidies door to door. There are more than 100 households affected by the disaster, and each household received compensation of 30 gold shields and 700 copper shields. This is a huge sum of money, enough for them to rebuild a 2-story house on the same site. The victims thanked the parliament one after another. The generous parliament did not forget them. They are also part of the Canary Islands. On the third day, the victims also sat outside their tents and watched the brilliant meteor shower. On the fourth day, there was another meteor shower at night. The director of the tribunal found Rudolph in a hurry and panic. "Mr. Furness. We can't afford it. This meteor shower is too expensive. Look, you are so scared. This is a gift. What are you afraid of? You scared me to death. I will tell the bosses that tonight's meteor shower is a gift. The leisurely vacation time is so short, and it soon comes to the end of the vacation." When Rudolph was about to leave the Canary Islands, a group of witch hunters from the mainland found Rudolph. The leader of the witch hunter was none other than Jonathan, the director of the trial hall of the Bluestone province of the United States of Cantal, whom he had met in Emerald Port before. In the tavern, Rudolph sat at the wine table and spoke first. "I don't have any criminal record when I come here. If you don't believe me, you can check it. I help put out fires in slums and rebuild slums. I have contributed several beautiful gifts to the Canary Islands. The meteor shower has made an outstanding contribution to the tourism industry of the Canary Islands. We have just come to terms with the United States of Cantal, so don't let it get further frozen by blackmailing a few resort hotel owners." Jonathan hurriedly said, "Mr. Furness, we are here with good intentions, not to create conflicts with you." "Oh, that's good. I thought if someone sued me, I would be wronged." Jonathan said, "Mr. Furness, we just recently learned that the Elba Alchemy Council cooperated with you and used a level 7 water wizard relic as reward for killing an enemy of the Elba Alchemy Council." Using a level 7 water wizard relic as reward, Rudolph was confused. When did this happen? The relic of the level 7 water wizard? Are you talking about the relic of the level 7 northern dolphin wizard Balat? Rudolph was a little unhappy. Then how can you ask me to cooperate with a level 7 relic? That relic is obviously not in the hands of their alchemy council. It was a relic that I killed by myself, killing the level 7 northern wizard Barat, and took it away myself. It's really too much. I didn't expect the Elba Alchemy Council to describe this matter like this, and it cost them a lot. How dare they ask me to use my relics? It was so shameless. Rudolph felt that the Elba Alchemy Council was too shameless. Jonathan had no intention of discussing whether the Elba Alchemy Council's words were correct. He said, "Mr. Furness, the actions of the Elba Alchemy Council have given us inspiration. Can we also ask you to take action?" Rudolph glanced at him sideways. "Are you also using the target person's relics that don't belong to you as reward?" Jonathan didn't shy away from it. "I did think so when I came here, but now I think we can talk about it again, or we can put it another way. These alchemists are really capable of calculations." Rudolph no longer struggled with the problem of explanation. "First of all, can you tell me who your target is?" "On the western border of our country, on the border with the Carolingian kingdom, there is a city of death. There are a large number of corpses in the city of death, and there is also a high-level living corpse. City of Death, Rudolph thought for a moment. He had heard of this name. The secret of his Nantian giant throne purchased by black gold was said at that time to be the main relic of the living corpse in the City of Death in the United States of Cantal. Yes, the City of Death. Rudolph immediately thought, are you going to send troops to the Carolingian kingdom? Jonathan did not expect that the furnace would ask this. The furnace was really sharp. He explained, I don't know about this. We are just following the requirements of the Judgment Department to find a way to deal with the City of Death, which is a cancer on the border. Jonathan neither admitted nor denied it, but Rudolph knew that the United States of Cantal was preparing for war. In this way, they would not directly attack the royal family of Elba in the southwest, but would send troops into the Carolingian kingdom. Do you want to fight with the Carolingian alchemists against the Carolingian royal family and nobles? If the Carolingians also split, I wonder what would happen to the city of Fabreau. I wonder what choices Jennifer will make and whether she can survive the chaos of the early days of the Civil War safely. What level of zombies are there in the City of Death? Level 7. Level 7 zombies. I know a lot about zombies. Zombies are very hard to kill, very hard. If you don't believe me, you can try with my friend Green Skull. He is a level 6 zombie. I don't think you have the ability to kill him. Mr. Furnace, we will provide one level 8 alchemical bullet like the Elba Alchemy Council. Rudolph was stunned. I feel offended. Am I an enhanced version of Moon Eye Obsidian in the eyes of your alchemists? Moon Eye Obsidian with automatic aiming and absolute hits. Jonathan was embarrassed and didn't know how to explain. It seemed to be true. Rudolph continued, I just said that a level 7 zombie is very difficult to kill. I can't guarantee that an 8th level alchemical bullet can kill him. Mr. Furnace, you are the Southern Cross assassin, you can definitely hit the zombie with one shot and let the zombie go to hell. Rudolph shook his head. If you choose to cooperate with me, you must believe in my professional ability. If I say that an 8th level alchemical bullet is not enough, then it is not enough. I must have a chance to make mistakes, otherwise I won't go. Level 7 zombies, that's not a joke. In fact, Rudolph was tempted, because the main relic of the 7th level North Scorpio Tiger secret is a 7th level zombie relic. If he can get this relic, then he will only have the last 7th level Fraud Priest relic to be promoted to the 7th level North Scorpio Tiger Wizard. 3 level 8 alchemical bullets, or please go back. Jonathan didn't beat around the bush and directly stated their bottom line, Mr. Furnace, 2 level 8 alchemical bullets are our limit. We must supervise the firing of each level 8 alchemical bullet and ensure that each bullet is fired at the level 7 zombie. Supervise me? Haha, who are you going to send to supervise my battle with the level 7 zombie? I can make it clear in advance that I am not responsible for supervising people's safety. Rudolph looked Jonathan up and down. Are you going to supervise me? Seeing the mocking look of the furnace, Jonathan knew that if he went to supervise, he would definitely die. The furnace and the level 7 zombies are both people who are not afraid of death and can be reborn, but he only has one life. By then, the furnace and the level 7 zombies will be dead and alive, and he doesn't have such a show-off ability. Jonathan gritted his teeth and said, 2 level 8 alchemical bullets, without supervision, I will apply to the Parliament when I return. Deal, Rudolph said happily. What city of death? My brother Green Skull will also be the lord of that city of death. 2 in 1, there will be an extra chapter later. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 645. The captain suddenly informed everyone that their leave had been extended and the crew could continue their paid leave in the Canary Islands until Captain Furnace returned. Rudolph and Cooper followed the people from the trial hall to the mainland. Yvonne remained on the island in case anyone attacked Rudolph's trading company in his absence. As a level 7 werewolf, Yvonne is strong enough to deal with most unexpected situations as long as she does not go to chaotic places. The trial hall gave Rudolph information about the city of death. Rudolph and Cooper studied it on the road, and the more they studied, the bigger their heads became. The level 7 living zombies are very powerful, and they have no idea what tactics to use to deal with them now. According to the trial hall, there is no record of killing level 7 zombies in the trial hall system of the United States of Cantal, so they are unable to provide more help. A train is waiting in the port city on the shore. This train will carry the furnace and the green skull to the city of death. The train traveled northwest, deeper and deeper inland. The train stopped moving forward until it reached a small town on the border. Director Jonathan said, "Mr. Furnace, Mr. Green Skull, we can only send them here. Go south from this small city and walk about 30 kilometers, you will see the city of death." Rudolph looked at the railway tracks extending into the distance. If he went further, he would enter the Carolingian kingdom. The city of death was indeed very close to this transportation artery. If the living corpses in the city of death had any idea, it could be very dangerous. Easily interrupt transportation lines and control the Cantal Council. The trial hall prepared 4 horses for Rudolph and the 2 of them. They put on the horses and continued on the road, heading south to the city of death. After 20 kilometers away from the border town, Rudolph found that the colors around him were getting darker and darker, the leaves on the tree crowns were sparse, and the flowers and plants on the ground were low and withered. The city of death has existed for decades, and even the plants are so withered. Apart from the faint crow of crows in the distance, there are no animals in sight. Is the city of death's influence so large? It's still 10 kilometers away from the city of death. Cooper stared at the crow in the distance and said, "We can't sneak in quietly. Living zombies are very sensitive to living animals and corpses. Maybe we have been discovered by level 7 living zombies now. Then don't sneak in silently, Cooper, keep the body for resurrection, and we'll go in directly. Rudolph, if I have to resurrect a collection far away, you must also be careful. Living corpses do not need to eat or drink, and there must be no source of fire in the city of the dead." Rudolph looked up at the sky. It was evening and it would soon be night. "It doesn't matter. My new constellation characteristics allow me to be resurrected at any time." Cooper knew that Rudolph could now create meteorites and meteors, but he didn't expect that the high-altitude flames were specifically used by Rudolph to resurrect him. The two continued to move forward, and dead bones appeared on the side of the road. They were ordinary people who strayed into this area. They had no value for collection and died on the side of the road. Judging from their postures, they all died peacefully, without struggling, and they lay very upright. It proves that killing in the city of death does not require drastic measures. Ordinary people cannot even do the instinctive actions of covering their heads with their arms before death. Rudolph felt very uncomfortable, and every breath of air he breathed became cold. Rudolph felt uncomfortable, and several horses reacted even more strongly. The horses kept snoring and their legs were weak. After letting go of the horses, the 4 horses quickly fled to the rear. After walking for a long time, a city appeared in the distance. The city actually retains its walls, proving that it was once the city of a certain noble. The city wall of the alchemist has long been demolished, because the city wall does not provide much protection, and it also restricts the construction of the city. After seeing the city wall, both Rudolph and Cooper stopped because the picture they saw was a bit terrifying. There were dense crowds of people standing on the city wall, layer upon layer, all staring at the 2 strangers who broke into the place. The city gate was wide open, and there was a group of people standing outside the city gate. These people were also staring at Rudolph and Cooper. The skin of those people was like lime soaked in water, showing uneven paleness. These are not living people, they are all corpses, a collection of living corpses. Judging by their tattered, rotting clothes, these men had been corpses decades ago. The corpse is not scary. What is scary is that the corpse has its eyes open and stares at you with its dilated pupils. Rudolph looked up at the sky. The sky was dark and stars were shining on the sky. As long as there were stars, he could be resurrected, even if this was a city of death that could not have any temperature. Just when Rudolph and the two were only 200 or 300 meters away from the city wall, all the corpses suddenly opened their mouths. The corpse's jaw seemed to be dislocated, and its mouth was open to its maximum, revealing the dry and shriveled gray mouth inside. A shadow rushed out of the mouth of each corpse. Not only the corpses at the city gate and the corpses on the city walls, but in the entire city of death, the shadows are close to each other, gathering together like a torrent of black gas, spurting out from the four walls of the city of death. I don't know how many apostles the city of death killed in such a long time before it could gather so many shadows. Shadow is the ability of level 6 zombies. One of the core abilities of level 7 zombies is to transform all collections into shadow states. The shadows gathered into a thick tentacle, and each shadow made a sound like the strange wind in the cave, as if the souls of thousands of dead people were howling miserably at the same time. Faced with the tentacles made of the shadows of wronged souls, Rudolph was surrounded by a mighty star force, and the starlight snake Hydra suddenly appeared. Several snakeheads spewed poisonous mist and suddenly smashed towards the tentacles like dark clouds. The shadow state of the zombies is manifested as a kind of very dense black shadow in the air. These shadows suffer very little damage from physical attacks. The giant snake smashing smashed the tentacles made of shadows, but did not cause substantial damage. As for Hydra's toxins, after testing, it has no effect on the shadows. More importantly, if the shadow state is still affected by reality, then the ghost state completely ignores all physical attacks. Among the shadow tentacles that were knocked open, some shadows disappeared and turned into ghosts. Ares' pupil fire appeared in Rudolph's eyes. With the help of the forbidden technique of Ares' pupil fire, he saw the ghost approaching him quickly. Not only can the corpse collection be transformed into a shadow state, but it can also upgrade the shadow to a ghost. The ability of the level 7 zombie is so powerful that his control over the corpse is completely detached from the entity. Unlike the current Cooper, the corpse he controls is still a normal corpse. If it weren't for the Ares pupil fire, Rudolph would not dare to deal with the level 7 zombie. What a coincidence, the Ares pupil fire is one of the few abilities that can restrain ghosts. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 646. In the dark shadow, dozens of shadows turned into ghosts. Ghosts cannot be seen with the naked eye. Fortunately, Rudolph mastered the Ares pupil fire. With the help of the Ares pupil fire, Rudolph saw the ghost. A knight in ghost state, both his body and his knight sword are in an absolutely transparent state. The ghost knight flew quickly in the air. His weightless body made him extremely fast. The knight sword flew quickly and chopped Rudolph's neck. However, this attack that was originally unavoidable for other apostles was dodged by Rudolph. His figure shrank back and the sword passed by his throat. When the sword launched the attack, it released the ghost state and turned into an entity with attack power. The ghost knight was obviously stunned. He couldn't understand why someone could dodge this imperceptible sword. The figure of the knight flashed and returned to the ghost state from the entity again. The ghost body would turn back into the entity at the moment of attack. In other words, if you want to deal with ghosts, you can wait for the moment when the ghosts launch an attack. This is the technique Cooper told him. Waiting is not Rudolph's character. He can't wait for these ghosts to attack before counter-attacking. Ares pupil fire is a soul-side forbidden technique that has the ability to burn the enemy's soul. The Ares pupil fire in his eyes shone with yellow-white flames. The ghost knight in front of him was locked by Rudolph's eyes. A second later, the Ares forbidden fire suddenly ignited on the ghost knight's body, and the ghost knight was burned to death while screaming. This scream can only be heard by other ghosts. Whether it is the shadow or the ghost, or the corpse on the city wall, they all appeared to be stunned at this time. The wizard actually killed the night ghost. The level 7 zombie hiding in the dark and manipulating the corpses all over the city must be very puzzled. All the corpses and shadows he controlled were sluggish. Rudolph sensed the strength of the ghost just now. The energy level of the night ghost is about that of a level 5 apostle. In other words, the level 7 zombie transformed a level 5 night corpse into a ghost. Cooper on the side was slightly better than Rudolph. This was still outside the city of death. The ghosts and shadows sent by the level 7 zombies were not of high level. Cooper also entered the ghost state, where he could see other ghosts. His way of dealing with ghosts was to send out waves of soul vibrations similar to sound waves to disperse ghosts whose souls were weaker than his. Cooper was more professional than Rudolph in dealing with ghosts. In the time it took Rudolph to burn a ghost to death, Cooper had already killed 2 low-level ghosts. As for the shadows, the zombies between corpses and ghosts, they did not launch an attack, but just crowded around Rudolph like a school of fish seeing food, sucking the breath of living people on Rudolph. These black shadows made Rudolph cold all over. He felt that his body temperature was continuously decreasing, and his reaction speed was getting slower and slower, as if his soul was frozen. There were too many shadows. I don't know how many people this zombie turned into shadows. No matter which direction Rudolph flew, he would be entangled by the shadows and given a difficult negative state by the shadows. Ghosts have no resistance in the air and fly very fast. It takes Rudolph 1 second to kill each low-level ghost. Many ghosts are too late to kill and quickly approach Rudolph. If it is a low-level corpse, Rudolph has many ways to kill it. But after becoming a low-level ghost, it is too difficult to deal with. Most of his methods are ineffective and he cannot hit these ghosts and shadows. Suddenly, a ghost actually rushed directly into Rudolph's body. Is this a silver snake ghost? Rudolph's eyes suddenly became psychedelic, and his breathing became rapid in this cold shadow. The instinct of this damn man, the white fire in Rudolph's pupils shone brightly, and the silver snake ghost was quickly burned to death. It's too difficult. These low-level ghosts have greatly increased their abilities due to their special way of moving. Almost every low-level ghost can affect or even threaten Rudolph. The feeling of being possessed is very bad. Every time a ghost possesses, Rudolph's body becomes a battlefield. The continuous burning of the pupils makes his own soul weak. Rudolph frowned. They hadn't even touched the gate of the city of death. That is to say, they were only fighting with the outermost power of the level 7 zombies, and they hadn't even seen the faces of the level 7 zombies. He looked up and glanced at the starry sky. It was coming. Rudolph used up most of his star power to create a little hot dust in the sky. This little hot dust fell down, getting bigger and bigger in the air, and finally turned into a huge meteorite. In the withered grass in the distance, Duke, the head of the Judgment Hall, said that he would not follow, but he still took people to observe the battle situation in the city of death with a high-power telescope. When he saw the meteorite, Duke sighed. The furnace was really a powerful wizard. The ability of falling meteorites is the same as natural disasters. The alchemist's artillery may not be able to produce the effect of meteorites. This is the ability of the fire wizard with the most destructive power among wizards. The meteorite came whistling with a long tail of flame. More importantly, Rudolph stared at the meteorite, and the Ares pupil fire in his eyes burned vigorously. The flame on the meteorite also took on a little white. Rudolph sent the Ares pupil fire into the meteorite, giving the meteorite the characteristics of the Ares pupil fire. The huge meteorite hit the city gate and the city wall directly. There was a roar and an earthquake. The shock wave caused by the meteorite directly collapsed the city wall. More importantly, the shock wave brought by the meteorite's fall rushed the Ares pupil fire contained in the meteorite flame to all directions. In the black smoke, red meteorite flame and yellow-white pupil fire, corpses, shadows, and even ghosts were melted in the high-temperature heat wave. It must be said that the ability of the fire wizard to burn a large area is really cool in frontal battles, which is much stronger than the means of the water wizard. The scorching air wave reached Rudolph, who was a few hundred meters away from the city wall, and swept away all the shadows beside Rudolph. The coldness and dullness of his body disappeared instantly, and he felt warm all over and very comfortable. Zombies like cold environments. The White Demon Priest and the Fire Wizard can restrain zombies to a certain extent. The fire wave created by the sextons changed the cold appearance here in a short time. Rudolph was panting, with sweat dripping down his head. The Ares pupil fire consumed his last star power. Both the meteorite and the Ares pupil fire consumed too much star power. The effect was worthy of Rudolph's efforts. Half of the wall of the City of Death collapsed, and all the corpses standing on the wall and at the gate were destroyed. The shadow group that was originally like a dark cloud also disappeared. The remaining scattered low-level ghosts were being taken care of by Cooper. Rudolph finally saw the scene inside the City of Death. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 647. The old buildings kept their appearance from decades ago. An unknown black gas floated on the streets between the buildings. In the black gas, shadows rolled up and down. Some of them disappeared into the black gas, and some jumped out like flying fish and disappeared after falling. This is a city of death, and the city is full of zombies. At the end of the city is the castle of the former nobles. The paint on the castle has faded, revealing the gray original stone, making the whole castle gray. On the highest tower of the castle, a cloak with a tattered skirt floated in the air more than 10 meters away from the top of the tower. The hem of the cloak fluttered slowly in the wind, and his background was the dark blue sky with stars just lit up. The hood of the cloak was pitch black, and it seemed that there was a little flickering green flame from the distance. Just like Cooper's floating, could this cloak be the target of their trip, the level 7 zombie? A revolver slipped from Rudolph's left hand, but he suppressed the urge to shoot. The shadow floating at the top of the tower, overlooking the entire City of Death, is not necessarily the real body of the level 7 zombie. Zombies can switch between their own bodies at will, and it would be a pity to waste a precious level 8 alchemical bullet. The most important thing now is to find the real body of the level 7 zombie first. Jonathan, who was lying in the distance, sighed again after seeing the attack effect of the meteorite. It is worthy of being the furnace, which actually masters such powerful fire witchcraft. More importantly, the furnace can easily solve the shadows and ghosts that the Judgment Department believes are extremely difficult to deal with a meteorite. The strength of the furnace is really too strong. In other words, the furnace contains too many constellations. Although he is only a level 6 wizard, his ability pool is bottomless and he can always come up with powerful wizard methods. Ordinary flames have no effect on ghosts. I don't know what powerful wizard abilities are in the meteorite. Rudolph couldn't wait for his star power to recover slowly. The shadows and ghosts in front of him were swept away. He had to seize the opportunity to deal a more fierce blow to the City of Death. He gathered a breath of poison gas in his mouth, and the toxin entered his body, quickly poisoning him to death. The meteorite fell on the city gate, and the flames on the city gate illuminated the broken bricks. A beam of flame suddenly burst, and Rudolph, who was fully recovered, appeared in the flames. Coming to the city wall, watching the City of Death up close, Rudolph saw more details. Under the floating black fog, there were bones leaning against the corner of the wall. Those were the bones left by ordinary people who had no value after death. In a small square near the city wall, a group of bones were forming a circle, and they seemed to be dancing before they died. Apostles have value and will become the collection of zombies. The existence of ghosts makes low-level collections also have good combat effectiveness. Ordinary people are different. They are useless to zombies. What greets them is decay and weathering. The roofs of some houses collapsed because of too much time, revealing the gables of the buildings. You can still see the photo frame on the wall, which contains a family portrait covered with a thick layer of dust. This city suddenly became a city of death at a certain moment, and all the people in the city died instantly in a short period of time. I don't know how long the level 7 zombies plan to turn the noble city into a dead place. This city with a very strong aristocratic style has turned into a garden of zombies. It's really miserable. If high-level apostles use their abilities by any means, if there are no knights or alchemists in this world to maintain the most basic order, then the fate of ordinary people is worse than weeds. They don't know which natural disaster or man-made disaster they will die tragically. After resurrection, Rudolph immediately created 3 hot dusts in the sky. This city of death has no value to exist. If possible, it is better to destroy it completely and let it become a tomb for the dead. The hot dust fell quickly, getting bigger and bigger during the landing, and turned into 3 meteorites. This time, Rudolph will guide the level 7 zombies to use stronger countermeasures, so that Cooper can observe and distinguish the source of the zombie power in the city of death. When a meteorite fell before, Director Jonathan in the distance could still sigh at the power of the furnace. When 3 meteorites fell together, Jonathan put down the telescope and could see the power of this witchcraft with his naked eyes. The star power of the furnace far exceeds that of ordinary wizards. The powerful fire phase ability he exerted can be comparable to the fire power of a field regiment of the Constitutional Army. The heavy fire power equipped by the field regiment can only reach this level in a round of salvos, destroying half of the city at a time. Rudolph's 3 puppets can provide him with star power. This is the reason why Rudolph's meteorites are huge in size, causing huge damage in time. 3 meteorites, 1 fell in the direction of the castle, and 2 fell in front of Rudolph. The tail flames of these 3 meteorites were accompanied by yellow-white flames, which were the flickering Ares pupil fire. The meteorites that fell to the castle were Rudolph's test of the level 7 zombies. That was the tallest building in the city of death. Under normal circumstances, zombies should live in the castle. The sound of horse hooves rang out from the castle's doorway, and a group of night corpses rushed out of the castle. The level 6 knight in the lead was a collection of zombies. The knights were corpses, and only the skeletons of the war horses were left. I don't know what kind of zombie magic this is, which can make the skeleton war horses carry heavy night corpses and run wildly. Behind the level 6 knight were protective chains connected to the abdomens of other night corpses. The extreme power gathered into the body of the level 6 knight, giving him the attack ability of level 7. He raised the knight's gun and threw it hard at the meteorite in the sky. The knight threw his gun like a rocket that rushed out of the barrel, roared into the air, hit the huge meteorite, and shattered the large meteorite into small meteorites. The small meteorites carried huge potential energy and scattered on the castle and the ground in front of the castle. There was no alchemical reinforcement circle on the old castle. This living corpse obviously did not pay attention to the maintenance and repair of the castle. Small pieces of meteorite directly collapsed the tower and made holes in the city wall. After the tower collapsed, the cloak floating on the top of the tower still maintained its original height and remained motionless. What Rudolph wanted was not that the meteorite would directly destroy the castle. What he wanted was the Ares fire that spread in the tail flame of the meteorite. The knight's corpse only had time to smash 1 meteorite, and the other 2 meteorites fell into the city in their intact form. The earth trembled, air waves swept across the sky, dust filled the sky, and roars of all sizes rang out in the city of death. Even Jonathan, who was lying far away, felt the vibration beneath him. More importantly, the fire shock wave caused by the meteorite spread crazily in all directions. The Ares I fire targets the characteristics of the soul, causing the low-level shadows and ghosts in the castle and streets to be instantly swallowed up by the fire shock wave. Those fragile shadows it was directly shattered by the shock wave. Just when Rudolph briefly had the advantage on the scene, Cooper started looking for level 7 living corpses as planned. His vision when in ghost state is very different from that of ordinary people. In his vision, all dead objects are transparent, and things with souls are entities. For example, now, the city walls and all buildings are transparent, with only a vague outline, but Rudolph's soul exudes a strange green light. Every time he saw Rudolph's soul, Cooper had to sigh at the power of Rudolph's soul. The solidity and luster of his soul were far superior to others. Except for Rudolph, the corpses, shadows, and ghosts of the level 7 zombies are all glowing with green light. Cooper wouldn't break out in a cold sweat, but the green flames representing his soul were flickering and jumping violently, and he couldn't find the level 7 living corpse. I don't know what methods were used to create level 7 zombies. In Cooper's opinion, the soul light of all corpses, shadows, and ghosts is similar, but it is different because of their different levels. There is no most powerful soul among them. Even the soul floating above the castle overlooking the city is only the soul of a level 6 zombie. Cooper was very anxious. Rudolph could not always maintain such a strong performance. His level was one level lower than the level 7 living zombie. He could create a short-term advantage on the scene. It was based on going all out every time he shot. He was going to commit suicide. Resurrection is a method to restore star power in the shortest possible time, otherwise you will immediately be entangled by the collection of living corpses. Cooper knew that Rudolph would become weak after his fourth resurrection and would never be able to maintain his current attack power. By then, the level 7 living zombies would have the advantage, and they would lose the precious opportunity created by Rudolph's resurrection. However, Cooper tried his best to find the level 7 living corpse. A ghost stalked Cooper again. The city was turned upside down, but the outside of the city became much quieter. The ghost escaped the first wave of attacks and now stalked Cooper. Cooper could have used ghost shock to disperse this ghost whose level was lower than his, but he withdrew the ghost spell at the last moment, allowing this ghost to get close and allowing this ghost to overlap with Cooper's ghost. This is extremely dangerous. Cooper does not have the means to restrain ghosts like Ares Xuanhuan. He is actively exposing himself and then directly confronting the level 7 zombies. The battlefield of this confrontation is within Cooper's body. Ghost invasion is a way for living corpses to create ghosts. Level 6 zombies are only ghosts themselves, so they cannot use this ghost spell. A level 7 zombie can create many ghosts. The way he creates ghosts is to use ghosts to invade the enemy's soul. Cooper's approach is to use his soul as bait to attract the level 7 zombies to attack him personally, thereby finding out the location of the level 7 zombies. If Rudolph knew what Cooper was going to do, he would definitely scold him for his nonsense. It's just a cooperative project of the Alchemy Council, why take such a risk and put your life on the line? After Cooper committed this act, he also began to regret it. He actually felt the cold feeling that he had not seen for a long time. This was unimaginable. After becoming a level 5 living zombie and losing his flesh and blood and leaving only his skeleton, he lost his sense of touch and could not feel any temperature, even when he walked into the stove. If you feel anything, now you feel cold, this is a precursor to death. At this moment, it was as if the whole world was enveloped by a cold wind. In the biting coldness, Cooper felt the source of the cold wind. Moat. Many corpses were crawling out of the moat, and many shadows and ghosts emerged from the water, without causing a single ripple. Cooper wanted to tell Rudolph the news, but Rudolph disappeared. Rudolph's soul disappeared. Rudolph committed suicide again. Cooper did not find Rudolph's soul at the first time. He was very anxious because his consciousness was about to fall into the coldest silence, and then he would really die and become a collection of level 7 living corpses. Hundreds of meters high in the sky, there are always extremely faint bits of fire floating. This is one of the abilities brought to Rudolph by the sextant constellation. There is always burning dust in the high sky. Each dust spark is as big as a pinhead. Just behind a cloud, a small dust spark suddenly explodes, and Rudolph's figure appears behind the cloud. This place is so high from the ground that the city of death looks only the size of a brick from this height. After being resurrected in the sky, Rudolph looked down at the city of death. The intuition of the word spirit suddenly gave him a strong palpitation, and a sense of fear rose in Rudolph's heart. What happened? The city of death was still the same as before, and the level 7 zombies did not take any strong means. What went wrong? The Ares pupils in both eyes burned vigorously, and Rudolph found the problem. Cooper. It was Cooper outside the city. In the vision of the Ares pupils, Cooper's ghost became extremely weak, and he overlapped with another ghost, who was obviously the ghost of the level 7 zombie. It was too ridiculous. Rudolph protected Cooper too well, and Cooper actually used such a dangerous method to test the level 7 zombies, which was too reckless. Just when Rudolph was terrified, Cooper's ghost suddenly ignited a strong green flame. At the same time, the moat of the castle also ignited a green flame. Rudolph raised his gun and fired at the green flames in the moat without hesitation. At this time, under the moat, there was no silt in the dark water, only the heads of corpses, and the gaps between the heads of corpses were still floating with crowded shadows and ghosts. In this lively and crowded river of death, there was an empty area within a radius of 3 meters. There were no corpses here, only an altar built with skulls. The level 7 zombies did not discard these damaged collections, but used their skulls as decorations for the altar. The level 7 zombies have been living under this water. They can maintain their ghost state forever. When they encounter witch hunters who are blind enough to provoke the city of death, they turn their corpses into shadows and ghosts, and then use ghosts to attack the enemies. If it weren't for the person who mastered the forbidden technique of Ares pupil fire today, the level 7 zombies would be almost invincible. Just when the level 7 zombie was about to make the wizard's level 6 zombie partner into his collection, he suddenly felt the zombie's resistance. The level 6 zombie actually attacked him with his soul. This counterattack could not cause him any harm, but it made him aware of the danger. He was exposed. His position was exposed. He was about to use death to revive on other corpses or ghosts, but found that it was too late. An alchemical bullet suddenly appeared on the head of the ghost state of the level 7 zombie. This bullet suddenly appeared, and he suddenly realized that even if he resurrected and transferred, this bullet would appear between his eyebrows in the ghost state after his transfer. Some kind of causal means involving the essence of the operation of the world made him unavoidable. This alchemical bullet exploded in his brow. The bullet appeared so suddenly, and the bullet exploded so suddenly. The powerful alchemical power contained in the bullet made the level 7 zombie feel unreal. This is the level 8 alchemical power. He still has many corpses that have not been used, and he still has many ghost spells that have not been used. It was all too late. The scorching alchemical power instantly devoured the level 7 zombie. 2 in 1, another day of extra chapters. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 648. The 8th level alchemist, the speaker of the upper house of the Kantar Alchemy Council, made a dazzling light spot under the water. This light spot is very small as the steel ball of a ballpoint pen, but the light emitted by the light spot illuminates the dark bottom of the water, dispelling all darkness and all dead air. In front of the light spot, close to the light spot, a transparent shadow appears. Because of the different refractive indices of light, this shadow is roughly a human outline. The light spot suddenly exploded, and a scorching energy ball with a radius of 1 meter appeared on the head of the 7th level zombie. With his head as the center of the circle, his upper body was instantly engulfed. The alchemical power in the energy ball is so powerful. It is obviously a scorching alchemical power, but it has a liquid texture like molten iron. This level 8 alchemical bullet is slightly different from the level 8 alchemical bullet that killed the level 7 dolphin wizard. One was made by the Speaker of the Elba Senate, and the other was made by the Speaker of the Cantal Senate. This bullet emphasizes the energy density of alchemical power, while the one that killed Belat emphasizes the burning power. No matter what the subtle differences are, they are the same for the level 7 zombies, and they are all equally powerless to resist. In the dazzling energy ball, the human-shaped phantom of the level 7 zombie turned into a shadow, then a skeleton phantom, and then into an old and skinny old man phantom. He seemed to go against his own promotion path and return to the human appearance when he was a level 4 zombie. In the end, the phantom of the old and skinny old man also disappeared, and the alchemical bullet took his life. The energy ball exploded completely, turning into a terrifying explosion. A tall water column appeared on the moat, and the water column was flushed into scorching water vapor by the high temperature. The castle walls, the surrounding embankments, the suspension bridge on the moat, all of these were shattered inch by inch in the air wave of the explosion, and finally turned into flying ashes and exploded. This explosion became the swan song of the City of Death. When the explosion ended, the City of Death fell into a real dead silence. The walls destroyed by the meteorite could not block the cold wind outside the city. The cold wind passed through the deserted streets and alleys, making a shrill howl. The skeletons of the war horses lost their power source and collapsed one by one. The corpses of the level 6 knights and the knights behind him fell into the pile of bones of the war horses one by one, and the other corpses wandering in the City of Death fell one by one on the dusty streets. As for those shadows and ghosts, they turned into balls of black cotton wool. If there were no other zombies to receive them in a short time, these shadows and zombies would drift away with the wind. The black air floating in the streets and alleys of the City of Death also slowly settled, seeping into the gaps between the bricks and stones, revealing the old streets. Rudolph had no time to care about the level 7 zombies and the City of Death. He landed in a hurry, and 2 sonic booms appeared beside Cooper. He turned on the Ares pupil fire and saw the remains of the ghost. Cooper finally merged with the ghost of the level 7 zombie and found the level 7 zombie in this almost suicidal way. Now the level 7 zombie is dead. With the help of the Ares pupil fire, Rudolph saw 2 soft black shadows on the ground. Rudolph stretched out his hand to grab the 2 ghosts, but it was ineffective. His hand passed through the ghosts. Cooper, if you die, which ghost should I cry for? Which of these 2 black shadows is you? From the state of the 2 black shadows being indistinguishable, Cooper looked no different from the dead level 7 zombie. Jonathan, the head of the judgment hall in the distance, saw that the battle was over and crawled out of the bushes where he was hiding. He walked towards the furnace with a happy and excited smile on his face. The cancer of the City of Death was solved by the furnace. He was worthy of being the Southern Cross assassin who was most compatible with the level 8 alchemical bullet. When he walked forward for more than 10 meters, his footsteps startled the furnace. Jonathan saw the furnace looking up at him, and the look was so fierce, as if he would be killed by the furnace if he took another step forward. The eyes of the furnace flickered with yellow-white flames, and the flames were like poisonous fire that devoured people, making Jonathan tremble. Rudolph was afraid of any slight vibration on the ground, afraid of even the smallest breeze around, afraid that these would affect Cooper. After seeing Jonathan stop, Rudolph was not in the mood to care about him. Time passed by, and Rudolph found that the 2 shadows still did not change. He knelt on one knee in front of a shadow, which was slightly larger. Cooper, are you dead? Putting his hand in the shadow, Rudolph actually couldn't feel anything. His sense of touch couldn't help him touch the shadow of the ghost after it died. Just when Rudolph was sad, another shadow suddenly expanded and suddenly soared to more than 10 meters high. 2 triangular shadows, a sharp big triangle formed the body, and an equilateral small triangle formed the head. Cooper's voice came from above, Rudolph. Are you crying at the wrong grave? I'm here. Rudolph slowly stood up and patted the dust on his knees. He felt a little lost. This was the discomfort after the sudden loss of strong emotions. Cooper, you idiot, this is just a deal with the Alchemy Council. If you can't beat us, just run away. Why are you working so hard? You almost died. Cooper found that Rudolph was really angry, and he quickly explained, didn't you say that you need a level 7 zombie relic to be promoted to a level 7 wizard? Hearing this, Rudolph didn't know what to say. Cooper's body shrank to the height of a normal person, and the triangular black shadow became much smoother. Below is a long teardrop-shaped black shadow representing the body, and above is a black shadow with the outline of a mantis head, representing his head. This is what it looks like under the vision of Ares Tonghuo. The normal state of Cooper at level 6 is a shadow, and he can only become a ghost by using the power of zombies. The normal state of Cooper at level 7 is a ghost, which does not require any apostle power, and is more hidden and more difficult to capture. I can't dig out my relics to promote you, right? You promoted? You became a level 7 zombie. Just tell me if it's simple or not. Oh shit, fate is so unfair. Ivan and you both got promoted, but I became the one who held you back. Don't feel inferior. It's just a level 6 apostle. Ivan doesn't dislike you, and neither do I. Rudolph suddenly remembered something, oops. My level 7 zombie relics. Rudolph's figure suddenly disappeared, and only a sonic boom sounded in the air. Jonathan in the distance was very confused. He didn't know what the furnace was doing. He had just knelt on one knee in an open space. He didn't know what he was doing with his head down. Later, he looked up at something. Finally, he seemed to have a quarrel with someone, and finally disappeared with a sonic boom. What he couldn't see was that Cooper waved his hand, and the ghost shadow under him came alive again. This time, the ghost became Cooper's ghost. Cooper also flew to the city of death. From now on, the corpses, shadows, and ghosts in the city of death belong to him. Rudolph flashed several sonic booms in succession and appeared beside the castle's moat. The water level of the moat dropped a lot because of the burning of the alchemical bullet. He saw a group of starlit shadows floating on the river, and Rudolph breathed a sigh of relief. The relic was condensed by the power of the apostle after the death of the apostle. The explosion happened too quickly and did not affect the relic that was condensed later. After waving, the group of starlit shadows came to Rudolph. This is the relic of the level 7 zombie, the level 7 ghost shadow. The level 8 alchemical bullet and the Southern Cross assassin are a perfect match. Next time I will go to the judgment office to ask, I wonder what kind of weapon the level 9 alchemist will make. Is there any level 9 alchemist who needs Rudolph's service? Rudolph will definitely come up and offer his Southern Cross wizard assassin ability. It's no wonder that the alchemists secretly regarded Rudolph as a large-sized moon eye obsidian. His absolute hit rate is much better than the automatic aiming system of moon eye obsidian. Any mechanical system has an upper limit, and Rudolph's absolute hit rate has reached the limit directly. The 7th level ghost shadow disappeared in Rudolph's palm, and a meteor streaked across the sky of the star map and hit the Lambda star in Taurus. The progress of Taurus reached 7/10. 3 suspended stars fell from the Lambda star in Taurus. This is the reward for Rudolph's hard work this time. But to be honest, using level 8 alchemical bullets is addictive. Since cooperating with level 8 alchemical bullets, collecting level 7 relics is not so hard. Level 7 Eye of the Underworld, Level 7 Ghost Stealth, Level 7 North Sky Link Secret. Level 7 Eye of the Underworld is a witch weapon, and I don't know what it does. Level 7 Ghost Stealth is witchcraft. Level 7 zombies have the characteristics of zombies, that is, the main body does not have much attack power, so they are particularly good at hiding themselves. Ghost Stealth should allow Rudolph to disappear from other people's perception like a ghost. There are 19 constellations in the north sky. Lynx is a black cat crawling in the north sky star field. This black cat is the mythical black cat of the underworld, Linkos, who is said to have the ability to see through the underworld. Rudolph decisively chose the north sky lynx secret method. The weirder the name, the stronger the ability. Those who dare to call themselves lynx are not simple. North sky lynx secret method. Astrological map lynx hexagram. Main relic level 7 silver snake relic. Secondary relic level 7 zombie relic, level 7 blood clan priest relic. Ritual location Lynx direct area, Linkos' empty mountain. The main relic of this constellation is actually the 7th level silver snake relic. Rudolph regretted it a little. The 7th level silver snake can become the forbidden food of the Night King. It is not something he can touch. If he had known earlier, he would have chosen the witchcraft 7th level ghost stealth. Don't be too greedy. The biggest gain of this operation is the 7th level zombie relic. In the secret formula of the North Scorpio Tiger constellation mastered by Rudolph, the main relic is the 7th level zombie relic, one of the secondary relics is the 7th level water wizard relic, and now there is only one 7th level fraud priest relic. He does have the fraud card, which can contact the evil god Fraud, but since he heard about the authority of eternal life, he has become more and more reluctant to contact the evil god Fraud. If he is found out by the Fraud that he is a fake omniscience, he will be surrounded by fraud priests in the future. Fraud will definitely retaliate against him. Fraud will not kill him, but will only torture him and tease him. Then he will not be alive. He can't ask the fraud card, "Hey, where is your 7th level fraud priest?" As the omniscient in the eyes of Fraud, he must know everything that has happened, that is, he knows who the level 7 fraud priest is and where he is. Once he asked this question, he would be exposed, so he didn't dare to ask. After thinking about it, he could only go to the Eagle's Beak Peninsula of Elba again. It was the closest to the southern continent and the first line of contact with the fraud priest. Maybe he could find news about the fraud priest on the Eagle's Beak Peninsula. This is very difficult. The deceptive priest masters 2 apostle abilities and is a priest who can deceive the power of the apostle. On the surface, the deceitful priest looks exactly like other apostles and is difficult to detect. Rudolph was worried about where to find the level 7 deceitful priest, while Cooper's knights were already rampaging through the city. Rudolph. I made a lot of money. I made a lot of money. I got a corpse of a level 6 knight, a corpse of a level 7 vampire, a corpse of a level 7 werewolf, and 12 corpses of other level 6 apostles. In addition, there are 6 level 6 ghosts, and there are countless low-level corpses, shadows, and ghosts. Are there only the corpses of level 7 vampires and level 7 werewolves? Rudolph, don't be too greedy. There are only a few level 7 apostles, and they are all big shots everywhere. I am very satisfied with the corpses of level 7 vampires and werewolves. What's more, I also have a level 6 knight corpse. This can be used as a level 7 apostle. Cooper was very excited. Rudolph, we just hit the city wall, and the level 7 zombie was killed by us before he could react, even before he used his level 7 apostle corpse. You are so strong. Cooper was so happy. For a time, shadows and ghosts were flying all over the city of death. Knights were running rampant. Corpses came out of the houses and crawled out of the moat, basking in the moonlight one by one. With a new owner and a new atmosphere, these corpses seemed to be much more lively. Jonathan's soul outside the city was so frightened that the city of death suddenly became as powerful as a busy city. Are those flying bats level 7 castle bats? Can the sound of horse hooves be used if the corpse of a knight is used? Isn't the level 7 zombie dead? Isn't the city of death in deathly silence? Why is the black death air floating on the city of death again? What happened to those corpses? Why did you become active again? Did the furnace fail? Not only failed, but looking at the way the furnace flew towards the city of death, he was collected by a level 7 zombie? Jonathan is very sure that he just saw that the furnace only fired one level 8 alchemy bullet. In other words, not only did the furnace become a collection of level 7 living corpses, but the corpse of the furnace also had a level 8 alchemy bullet in its hand. Jonathan suddenly felt that the idea of hiring a level 6 wizard's furnace to deal with level 7 zombies was so stupid. Even giving him level 8 alchemy bullets would not help. It's over, everything is over. Rudolph looked at the corpses all over the street and felt that it was a bit like a festival in the city of death. Let's go, let's leave the city of death. I'd better go back to the Saragosi. You can't really be the city lord here. Wait for a day. When the sun comes out tomorrow, I will deal with the dead energy here, Cooper explained. The speed of the death energy dissipating is too slow. If I don't deal with these black death energy, it will take more than 10 years for the death energy to dissipate naturally, which means that within 10 kilometers around the city of death, animals and plants will not be able to survive for more than 10 years. Okay, let's wait for one day and leave tomorrow. 2-1. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 649. On the way to the city of death, within a continuous range of 10 kilometers, animals automatically left, and plants withered and withered. This city of death caused a devastating blow to the nearby ecology. This is determined by the habits of living zombies. Living zombies do not like living things, but only like corpses and dead things. Even Cooper will summon his corpse monument when no one is around, and stay beside the corpse monument, or lie on the corpse monument. The corpse monument can not only store the corpse collection, but also allow Cooper to be killed by black surrounded by chi. It feels more comfortable. Level 7 living zombies have been running this place for decades. The Black Death aura not only permeates the city, but also slowly spreads and penetrates into the surrounding areas, making it unsuitable for living creatures to survive within a 10-kilometer radius. If Cooper eliminates the Black Death here, maybe more than 10 years later, this place will become a prosperous city again. Rudolph felt that the surroundings were too cold, so he said, "Why don't you go outside the city? This place makes me feel uncomfortable both mentally and physically." The castle's drawbridge had been blown up. Rudolph looked at the castle and saw the dark windows and the half-open entrance to the main building. He had no urge to explore the haunted house. The two walked outside the city of death. As they passed the streets, they could see the traces of time. Before its destruction, this city should have been the capital city of a certain great noble's fiefdom, and it was probably the city where the corpse of the level 6 knight was found. There are wide roads here with ruts left by horse-drawn carriages. There are dense shops here, and it must have been very prosperous in the past. There are also large residential areas here, which must have a large population. Now, all that's left in the city is deathly silence. The apostles became a collection of living corpses, while the ordinary people became skeletons or dust at the end of the street, with only half of their skulls that had not yet weathered to prove that they had lived in this world. There is no wind in this city of death, not at all. The Black Death energy is the wind here. When passing by the collapsed city wall, Rudolph saw many skeletons sealed in the city wall at the break of the city wall. He didn't know whether these skeletons were sealed in by nobles or by living corpses that were sealed in by collectors in order to repair the city wall. Seeing Rudolph's gaze falling on the skeleton of the sandwich layer of the city wall, Cooper explained, "This is the origin of the Black Death energy in the city of death. Enough corpses are used as nutrients to ferment the Black Death energy that is slowly released. I will use rituals to dispel these dead spirits tomorrow. This is truly a city of death, a heart-wrenching city of death, a city full of corpses and death." Cooper suddenly raised his hand and pointed to the sky in the distance, where a crow fell to the ground. "Someone wants to use the natural magic of the druid to let the crows deliver information? Who is it?" Rudolph thought for a while and said, "It might be Jonathan, he followed here secretly." Jonathan brought 3 men with him, one of whom was a druid. The druid witch hunter told Jonathan in horror, "Director, there is something wrong with these crows. They are not ordinary crows, they are related to the city of death. The crows that can move around the city of death are certainly no ordinary crows." Jonathan said to the druid witch hunter, "Don't look back. You must send back the news that the furnace and the green skull were captured by the city of death. And tell the council that the city of death now has a level 8 alchemical bullet." When the druid witch hunter heard this, he immediately turned around and ran away. Jonathan stood up, turned back with a tragic look, and said to the other two men, "We have to fight for the opportunity to transmit the intelligence and delay time." However, when he saw the two people behind him, his face turned green. Behind him are the furnace and the green skull, which have been controlled by the city of death. I didn't expect that the famous furnace would become a collection of level 7 living corpses. Do you still have your own consciousness? Furnace. Rudolph was shocked. What was this man talking about? He ignored the insane Jonathan and disappeared in a sonic boom. When he reappeared, the druid witch hunter who had captured Jonathan had already caught him. "What are you talking about? Is there something wrong? How can I become a collection of level 7 living zombies? Now my friend Green Skull is a level 7 living zombie, how can he make me a collection?" Seeing the lifelike appearance of the furnace, Jonathan was very surprised. "Are you a furnace? Are you not a collection of living corpses? Are you really a furnace? Of course, what are you thinking about? You Cantal witch hunters are not good. Your quality is too poor. You are not as good as the Elba witch hunters. But the city of death wasn't so lively just now. Aren't the corpses of level 7 zombies still moving? Could it be?" Jonathan looked at the floating cloak. "Did Mr. Green Skull get promoted? As you can see, my friend Green Skull has been promoted to a level 7 zombie." Rudolph felt that it was a bit underwhelming for a director of the judicial department to deal with him. With his current status, it was not too much to approach him as the deputy director of the capital's judicial department. Jonathan was so incompetent that he almost did something bad and added unnecessary trouble. Maybe, those big shots are afraid of death. Jonathan is also afraid of death, but he has dealt with the furnace several times and knows the temper of the furnace. In the eyes of the big shots, sending him here has a greater chance of survival. Congratulations, Mr. Furnace. Thank you, Mr. Furnace. You have cleaned up a big cancer on our border. Without you, we would not know how to deal with the difficult living zombies. Jonathan had already begun to formulate a mission report, but he didn't understand at all how the furnace suddenly found a level 7 zombie, how it killed the level 7 zombie, and how the green skull was promoted to another level 7 zombie. In the eyes of the tribunal, the city of death can be completely destroyed with saturation firepower, but weapons of mass destruction cannot deal with the elusive level 7 zombies that can switch between ghosts and zombies. This is what bothers the tribunal the most. Having watched the furnace hunting for level 7 zombie relics, Jonathan felt that he had watched in vain and had not learned any experience. He did not understand how the furnace locked onto the level 7 zombies. This is the gap between ordinary apostles and dazzling star wizards like the furnace. In the eyes of the tribunal, the active furnace is the most dazzling wizard of this era. The influence of the furnace is not as great as that of the royal court teacher, but the furnace is definitely the wizard who has the most frequent actions and the most trouble. My friend Green Skull has been promoted. Do you understand how dangerous this operation is? The promotion of zombies must be born from death. Next time you ask me to take action, you must have 3 level 8 alchemical bullets. Jonathan just smiled and said nothing. He tacitly did not mention the remaining level 8 alchemical bullet in the hand of the furnace. After the judgment of the bigwigs of the judgment department, they thought that since the level 7 zombies were so difficult to kill, it was not excessive for the furnace to need 2 level 8 alchemical bullets, and the furnace also needed a certain tolerance rate. but now it seems that the furnace is really too strong. He cheated the Parliament of a precious level 8 alchemical bullet. Don't leave either. Tomorrow morning, the Green Skull will completely eliminate the hidden dangers of the City of Death. In the morning sun, Cooper floated up to the arrow tower of the city wall. There were 3 skeletons under the arrow tower, with their heads facing outwards. The skeletons were connected by skulls next to each other, forming a strange triangle symbol. Under the shining of the morning sun and Cooper's ritual, the death energy of the entire City of Death rose into the air like boiling water. The rising black death energy melted in the morning sun, and the whole city was filled with Tyndall effect beams of morning light shining in the black fog. The scene was spectacular. Look, I helped you clean up the garbage carefully before I left. Are you touched by this sense of responsibility, this quality, and this service? I am very touched. Thank you. And Mr. Green Skull again, after solving the City of Death, Cooper was promoted, Rudolph got the relics, and they could return. Standing on the platform of the train station, Rudolph asked Jonathan, when will you attack the Carolingian kingdom? Mr. Furnace, we have no plan to attack the Carolingian kingdom. These are all rumors. This man did not tell the truth, and Rudolph did not pursue him. The two sides were just a cooperative relationship of mutual distrust, and there was not much friendship. He looked at the end of the railroad track, which led directly to the Carolingian kingdom. The dense railway network would lead to his hometown, Fabreau City. Jonathan still preferred the furnace, who was full of unreliable jokes. Such a serious furnace made him very uncomfortable. The furnace remained silent. After a minute, Jonathan could not bear it any longer. He said, I heard that the Parliament has such a plan. Once the Carolingian kingdom falls into civil war, the Parliament will consider supporting the Carolingian Alchemy Parliament. Rudolph did not say much. He walked towards the train. I don't know what will happen to those acquaintances in Fabreau City in the next civil war. He wants to be promoted as soon as possible. After becoming a level 7 wizard, he can truly influence these major forces, instead of acting as their thugs like now. The group came to the Canary Islands, and the volcano set sail again and returned to Belfort Port on the Eagle's Beak Peninsula. Watching the volcano leave, Jonathan was very entangled. The regret is that the furnace, such a useful assassin, left just like that. Fortunately, the furnace left the Cantal United States with an 8th level alchemical bullet. At least the furnace will not threaten the big figures of the Cantal United States. After returning to Belfort Port, Rudolph rushed to the Black Gold Institute as soon as possible. Celine, secretly help me find information about the fraudulent priest. The higher the level, the better. The situation is urgent, the continent is getting more and more chaotic, even Carolingian has to face civil war. Rudolph wants to become a level 7 wizard as soon as possible, so that he can have more survival ability. Okay, Mr. Furnace. At an arsenal in Belfort, the bell rang and the sales manager was ready to go off work. He locked 3 drawers, checked the locks on the cabinets, checked whether the password of the safe was in a messy position, and checked whether the small mechanisms in the house were intact. For example, whether the spider silk at the door was there, and whether there were any signs of violent opening of the door. For example, whether the dust under the window was a fine layer. If a thief sneaked in, it might leave footprints on the window sill, and if he observed the situation outside at the window, it would also leave footprints under the window sill. He lived every day carefully, leaving no flaws. As the sales manager, he controlled all the sales channels of the arsenal. Whether it was the peak season of war or the off-season of peace, he could find lucrative sales channels for the arsenal. After get off work, he walked towards the club. He was tense every day, so he needed to relax and relieve the pressure in his heart. Saying sorry to his wife at home, he walked into the club. There would be many women serving him here. I heard that there was an abstinent priest who came to the club recently. He was an abstinent priest who came with the believers who smuggled in. He was always as pure as a virgin and smelled great. After he entered the door, everything was normal. The doorman put away his coat, and the wine waiter took him directly to the top floor from the hidden stairwell. After entering the suite, he sat on the bed and waited for tonight's service. The bathroom door suddenly opened, and the sales manager was a little surprised. Today's service was a little anxious, and his tie was not untied. When he saw the person walking out of the bathroom door, his eyes almost popped out. Under the thin black gauze skirt, the white porcelain skin was looming. How could there be such a beautiful woman? When he looked at the woman in black gauze, he was completely conquered. What he didn't notice was that another person walked out of the bathroom. Rudolph sat on the sofa and looked at the charmed sales manager. It is not complicated for a level 6 silver snake to charm a level 4 alchemist and a level 4 fraud priest. To deal with the fraud priest, conventional means cannot be used. It must be a mind control ability to avoid being deceived by the fraud priest in the first place. Who is your superior priest? The sales manager's face was full of obsession. Facing Abigail's question, he couldn't wait to say, "My superior priest is the big smuggler Snag." Rudolph always felt that Snag was problematic. Snag could easily get the authorization of the Constitutional Navy, collect so many materials for smuggling, and sell the smuggled food and alchemical gunpowder. It was not simple. I didn't think about the fraud priest before. Now it seems that if he is a fraud priest, everything is much more reasonable. What level of fraud priest is he? He is a level 6 fraud priest. Rudolph felt a little sorry that Snag, such a big smuggler, was only a level 6 fraud priest. If he wanted to find the relics of the level 7 fraud priest, he had to look up from Snag. Rudolph came to the sales manager, who was still tilting his head to look at Abigail. The gentle wine waiter, Rudolph used the forbidden technique of Aquarius. The sales manager finally turned his head and stood up respectfully. Abigail's charm can only last for a week. If the sales manager is out of the charm after a week, it will be troublesome. It is better to control him with forbidden techniques, so that it is not easy to be exposed. The fraud priest is very special. The spiritual wind-related forbidden techniques that were not used before can be thrown out without money. Otherwise, it will be bad to be deceived by the fraud priest. Just pretend that everything that happened today has never happened. You can do everything as usual. Yes, my master. Abigail disappeared in Rudolph's palm, and Rudolph left the suite. He passed by an abstinence priest, who and his servants thought that this was a guest who had enjoyed himself. After returning to the port, Rudolph found Mackenzie. Mackenzie, set off for Oyster Bay port, and then contact the smuggler Snug, saying that our volcano shipping company has not been open for more than a month, and ask him to meet and ask if he has any channels. The volcano set sail and headed for Oyster Bay port. When Snug learned that the furnace took the initiative to ask him out, he was extremely surprised. In the past, he always asked the furnace for help, but now the furnace took the initiative to find him, so he could bargain hard and make a lot of money. 2 in 1. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 650. The two sides agreed to meet on the volcano. Snag had no doubts about it. They often discussed things on the volcano before. The furnace had always taken the initiative. All the factory owners and merchants behind Snag needed the furnace to open up the Sarago Sea. After entering the captain's office, Snag happily said that it had been a long time since we last met. A fragrant breeze blew over him. He turned around and saw a beautiful woman in gauze bringing him red wine. This stunning glimpse made Snag instantly intoxicated. Rudolph felt very happy. If he lowered his moral bottom line and used the ability of the silver snake without scruples, he would have an unbeatable pass. The 6th level silver snake has a strong charm for apostles of the same level. The dual identities of the 6th level alchemist and the 6th level fraud priest cannot resist the charm of the silver snake. For double insurance, Rudolph came to Snag's side and placed his palm on Snag's forehead. 3 minutes later, the Liber Forbidden technique, the Salt Covenant that will never be abandoned, was completed. This technique is really troublesome. You have to confirm over and over again that the other party will not go back on their word, until the other party completely imprints the promise deep in their mind through repeated hypnosis, and never doubts it like instinct, and keeps the promise like instinct. The forbidden techniques of the 3 air signs are all born for mental control, which is very useful for dealing with cunning and fraudulent priests. The gentle wine waiter can only be used on apostles of a lower level. Snag is a level 6 alchemist, and the Salt Covenant that will never be betrayed is very suitable for him. Snag, stay honest with me. I will be absolutely honest with you. Who is your backer in the parliament? My backer in the parliament is the last generation of big smugglers, Mr. Milo, the senator of the Capital Senate. Who is your superior priest? My superior priest is the 7th level fraud priest, Mr. Milo, the senator of the Capital Senate. Promise me, Snag, don't tell anyone about our communication. Okay, Mr. Furnace. Unexpectedly, the fraud priest actually sneaked into the upper house of the Alchemy Council. Wouldn't the Elba Alchemy Council be as transparent as the evil god cult? In order not to attract the attention of the 7th level priest, Rudolph did not do anything to Snag, but asked Cooper to keep an eye on him and pretend to complete a smuggling with Snag. And he himself, without telling anyone else, flew quickly to the capital city of Liger. When he was about to arrive in Liger, Rudolph got on a train and only took one stop to enter Liger. On a train that arrived in Liger late at night, Rudolph got off wearing a long windbreaker and carrying a suitcase. Looking at the prosperous city in the distance, he was a little dazed for a while, because he saw a 10-story building. When reinforced concrete first appeared, 10-story buildings were called skyscrapers. Looking at these high-rise buildings and the glass windows with lights on, Rudolph had some expectations. If the alchemists were given 200 years, could they make this place the same as Rudolph's previous life? Taking off his hat and tidying up his hair, Rudolph walked towards the exit. At this time, in the House of Lords, a man in a robe walked in the building complex. He left the Macro Development Trend Research Institute under the House of Lords and walked towards the Prime Minister's office. Unlike the alchemists in suits around him, this man wore an ancient robe, like an ancient scholar. The other alchemists did not find it strange, but bowed their heads to salute. This is Mr. Eric, the astrologer of the Elba Alchemy Council, the 7th level word spirit, the director of the Macro Development Trend Research Institute. Seeing Mr. Ellich coming in, Prime Minister House put down his work and stood up quickly. Mr. Ellich, what's the matter with you coming here late at night? Eric sat opposite House, and he motioned for others to leave the office. Prime Minister House's assistants and other staff left one after another, leaving the office to the 2 of them. Prime Minister House, tonight's divination told me that the House of Lords will be attacked. House was stunned. The House of Lords will be attacked. Yes, to be precise, a member of the House of Lords will be attacked. If nothing big happens, I will do divination 3 times every night, one about you, one about me, and one about the House of Lords. The attack is not directly against you, nor against me, nor against the House of Lords. I can only vaguely know that the life of a certain senator may be threatened. Word spirits can divination about things related to themselves, and they will get the most accurate predictions before they are attacked. He can also use the certificate to make divinations for others. For example, Prime Minister House's certificate is in Eric's hands. If someone wants to assassinate Prime Minister House, Eric will know in advance. The charter of the House of Lords is in Eric's hands. He can use the charter to make a rough divination of the trend of the House of Lords. There are 48 senators in the House of Lords, and many of these senators are level 7 alchemists. Eric is a level 7 word spirit. For the senators with a large number and high level, his divination cannot be particularly accurate. The enemy knows the word spirit very well, and the divination at 12 o'clock at midnight is the most accurate. The enemy waited until the second half of the night to act, so I can't use the opportunity of 12 o'clock at midnight to make further divinations against him. After informing the situation, Eric left Prime Minister House's office. He could not participate in the subsequent battle. After Prime Minister House sent Eric away, he quickly called Duan, the Minister of the Judgment Department of the House of Lords. Duan heard the Prime Minister's story and quickly left the House of Lords to prepare to increase the defense level. Rudolph was walking on the streets of Leger when he suddenly heard a sharp alarm ringing throughout the city. He looked up at the starry sky and realized that he was exposed to some extent. But he was not panicked. He had not done anything yet. He could not be forbidden to enter Leger. In the villa area of Leger, Senator Milo was awakened by the alarm outside the window. He jumped up from the bed. He was a member of the House of Lords, so he knew what this alarm meant. The House of Lords was attacked. This alarm was to let the members of the functional departments to quickly go to work, and the members of non-functional departments like Milo to quickly take refuge. Milo was a senator elected by Oyster Bay Port. He did not work in the functional departments of the royal capital. His main responsibility was to compile bills related to shipping in the parliament. There were already 4 teams of witch hunters outside the door, waiting for Milo to go out. 4 teams of witch hunters, this is the standard configuration of each senator. Senator Milo left the villa without saying a word, and the group walked towards the shelter, where there were strong fortifications that were difficult to break through. The senators all lived in the villa area. Milo soon heard footsteps from behind. After thinking about it, Milo suddenly said to the witch hunter, "Wait for the senator behind, let's go together." There were also 4 teams of witch hunters around the senator behind. It would be safer to join together. The witch hunter agreed to Senator Milo's request without thinking. The 2 senators walked together, discussing the cause of the incident from time to time. Unfortunately, neither side had time to get accurate information. Milo looked at the fat senator next to him, and his heart was a little relieved. At this moment, a gunshot rang out in the dark night. Some witch hunters rushed madly towards the 2 senators, and some rushed madly towards the source of the gunshot. The witch hunters instantly built a powerful temporary defense in front of the congressman. Although it was temporary, there were many styles of heat insulation nets that absorbed high temperatures and flames, bulletproof plates that blocked physical attacks, aerogels that absorbed kinetic energy, etc., ensuring that there were no blind spots. However, these protective measures were ineffective. They heard an explosion behind them. This explosion was so iconic that the scorching air waves behind them overturned all the witch hunters. Level 8 alchemical bullets. This turned out to be a level 8 alchemical bullet. The enemy's attack was merciless. He actually used a level 8 alchemical bullet in the first sneak attack. Since the level 8 alchemical bullet was developed by the first alchemist, this bullet has been a weapon strictly controlled by all alchemists and is absolutely not allowed to be circulated outside, because even a child without any apostle power can kill a level 7 or even level 8 alchemist with a gun with a level 8 alchemical bullet. There was an level 8 alchemist in Elba's history who died from a level 8 alchemical bullet fired by an ordinary audience during a parade. What frightened the witch hunters even more was that the level 8 alchemical bullet ignored all defenses, passed through all obstacles, and directly hit the senator behind them to protect. This ability, all witch hunters thought of one person, the Southern Cross wizard Furnace that had just cooperated with the Court of Inquisition. Rudolph's face was livid in the distance. His absolute hit did not miss, but the person he hit was not Milo, the level 7 fraud priest, but the fat senator next to him. He was clearly aiming at Milo, but the bullet hit someone else. He started with the strongest level 8 alchemical bullet, but he was still deceived. Rudolph was fooled. "I'll take a day off. Tomorrow is my first day at work. There are many things to prepare." Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 651. The absolute hit did not miss, and he still definitely hit the enemy. However, the target was deceived, and he failed to hit the target he wanted to hit. Is this the ability to deceive? This assassination was not decisive. Rudolph even fired a precious level 8 alchemy bullet at the first opportunity. Unfortunately, this level 8 alchemy bullet was wasted. Alarm bells blared in the streets, and witch hunters pulled out flares and prepared to fire them into the sky. Rudolph didn't want to be surrounded by witch hunters, so he picked up another gun and shot at the witch hunter's signal gun. After 3 shots, these flare guns were shattered one by one. There is no need for absolute hits. Level 6 Word Spirit gives Rudolph precise shooting skills. It is not difficult to smash these flare guns. However, there were secret whistles of witch hunters somewhere in the distance, and those secret whistles sent out signal flares into the sky. The blood-red signal flare is the highest level warning signal of the Judgment Office. Someone actually went so far as to assassinate a senator frantically on the streets of Legura. Even the Elba royal family had never done such a thing. Rudolph had no time to pay attention to the witch hunter's secret sentries in the distance, because Milo, the level 7 deceitful priest, was running away. Rudolph knew that he only had one level 8 alchemy bullet, but Milo didn't know that. If it weren't for the witch hunter's desperate efforts to protect him, Milo would have even felt that his identity was exposed and that the tribunal wanted to kill him on the street. His escape was unhurried because he knew that no attack would hit him and any attack would be deceived by him. Witch hunter. Follow me. Compared with dealing with killers, Milo believes that the more important role of these witch hunters is to act as backup for assassinations and deceive the enemy's attack targets. Milo guessed the identity of the killer, the Southern Cross assassin. The killer could only be the big pirate furnace on the ancient Sea of Sarah. The death of the fat congressman made Milo gloat. The death of the congressman was not a trivial matter. The furnace was in big trouble. Milo only needed to hold on for a while, and all members of the judicial department would be dispatched to deal with the furnace. The city of Legura instantly fell into chaos. Hundreds of airships of various shapes and functions flew into the sky, and hundreds of searchlights were lit. Dwayne, the head of the judicial department, acted like he was crazy. Mr. Eric gave an early warning to the senators. Prime Minister House also notified Dwayne immediately. All Dwayne's arrangements were in line with the emergency plan. However, the flare gun showed that it was still major harm occurs. When Dwayne arrived at the street where the incident occurred, he found the senator who had been killed on the ground. Cold sweat fell from Dwayne's forehead. There were less than 50 senators. These people were the absolute core figures of the Elba Alchemy Council. The dead senator controlled textile companies across the country and was a giant in the textile industry. Now, this big shot died on the streets of Legura City, and he was killed by a level 8 alchemy bullet. First check the weapons depot of the judicial office. Send a letter to the Constitutional Army headquarters and ask them to check their weapons depot. See if there are any level 8 alchemy bullets wandering outside. Dwayne led the witch hunter and rushed in the direction where the killer left. He couldn't even describe the murderer as running away. The killer was still chasing Congressman Milo from Oyster Bay Port. Dwayne, the head of the trial department, got the key information from the description of the escort witch hunter. The killer was most likely the Southern Cross Wizard Furnace. Then thinking about Mr. Milo, the senator from Oyster Bay, could it be that the Furnace and Oyster Bay had an irreconcilable relationship? The conflict caused the Forge to go crazy and sneak into the city of Legura to assassinate Mr. Milo? All questions need to be answered by grasping the Furnace. The gunshots rang out in the distance proved that the Forge was still attacking Senator Milo. Rudolph flew quickly through the streets and alleys. Milo's speed was not very fast, but every shot of Rudolph would miss, hitting the witch hunter, the street lamp, the chair, the flower bed, etc. After being hit by the manhole cover, at this moment, Rudolph seemed to have become a master of human body tracing, tracing Milo's body with bullets. He also tried shooting finger fire, but it didn't work and he would still miss. There was a flash of struggle in his eyes. Is today's assassination going to fail? Rudolph will never allow this to happen. He just accidentally killed a senator, and the Alchemy Council will not be merciful. As a last resort, after hesitating and hesitating, Rudolph took out a card. The evil god deceived the playing card, and the snapping turtle on the playing card was ugly and ferocious. The girl who replaced the tongue in the mouth of the snapping turtle was so pure that any man who saw her would have the urge to protect her. This card came directly due to the evil god's fraud, and it was equivalent to an artifact. Rudolph has been avoiding using this card. However, hundreds of airships are gathering here, several searchlights have shone on this street, and various tactical slogans of witch hunters are heard in the distance. He has been surrounded. Completely surrounded. The only chance he has to survive is to prove to the Alchemy Council that his target is a deceitful priest who has deceived the Alchemy Council. He held the fraud card between his fingers, faced Milo's back, and popped out the card. This time, he once again used an absolute hit. The cards left his hand at extremely high speeds and suddenly disappeared from Rudolph's fingertips. In the next moment, the cards appeared in front of Milo's throat. Milo ran forward with his back to the assassin. He was always paying attention to surprises in the direction of his back. He never thought that the attack would come from the front. The card appeared directly in front of Milo, spinning at high speed, and appeared directly in front of Milo. In front of Ludo's throat. Evil! 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 Milo covered his throat, lowered his head in disbelief, and a card pierced his throat deeply. How is it possible? How could anyone hit him? All attacks aimed at him will be deceived by him. This is the most powerful ability of a high-level fraud priest. No matter how he doubted, he could not change the outcome of his death. The card pierced Milo's throat, cut off Milo's cervical vertebrae, and flew out with a lot of blood, spinning and flying towards Rudolph. Frowning deeply, Rudolph had to catch the card, and the snapping turtle on the card came alive. Respected all-knowing. How long have you not contacted me? So many big things have happened recently, I urgently need your guidance. The card was stained with Milo's blood and stimulated by Milo's apostle power. It was a headache. Rudolph didn't want to face the evil god fraud at this time, but without the help of the fraud card, he had no ability to kill Milo, the level 7 fraud priest. Rudolph said nothing. While organizing his words, he walked towards Milo's body. Fraud cards didn't care about the death of a level 7 fraud priest. He didn't even look at him. He just stared at Rudolph, expecting Rudolph's guidance. Facing the evil god fraud, Rudolph was under a lot of pressure. It was not right to say too much, nor was it right to say nothing. After seeing the relics of the level 7 fraud priest at Milo's feet, Rudolph said to the cards. In the conspiracy of Ptolemy, the Lord of Mars, he will kill 3 evil gods again. If you want to know more, give me enough benefits to exchange. After that, without waiting for fraud to speak, Rudolph shook off the blood on the fraud cards, and then threw the cards into the storage wizard, not wanting to have too much communication with fraud. When you tell the first lie, you will have to use lies one after another to make up for the loopholes of the first lie, and finally become a mountain of lies, with bugs everywhere, until the lie collapses. When Rudolph deceived fraud for the first time, he had to keep deceiving fraud until he was discovered by fraud. As for what he said about Ptolemy's conspiracy and the death of 3 more evil gods, how could he know whether it was true or not? It all depended on whether the evil gods dared not to believe it.